On the morning of August 19, 2016, at 8:30 a.m., the emergency centre in Cardiff, the capital and largest city of Wales, England, received a call from a young man. He said he had hit his girlfriend a couple of times the previous night, and she fell asleep shortly afterwards. When he woke up in the morning, he saw that she was having trouble breathing. He called for help, but unfortunately, his girlfriend was pronounced dead shortly after being taken to the hospital. Welcome to Red Eastern True Crime. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to my channel. Let's dive into this story. The young woman who died was Bi Xixi, 24 years old. She was born in 1992 in Nanjing, Jiangsu Province, China. Xixi came from a very wealthy family and had a younger brother. Her father, Bi Xixi, is the chairman of China Runheng Group. In 2016, he was ranked 548th on the Who Run China Rich list, with a fortune of 6.7 billion RMB. In 2007, when she was 15 years old, Xixi and her brother were sent by their parents to a private school in the UK. In 2012, Xixi began studying management at Cardiff Metropolitan University. She also learned Spanish and spent time studying French in France. Xixi was friendly, sincere, and always had a smile on her face, giving off a vibrant and confident vibe. She was a good student who completed her assignments on time and was considered excellent by her teachers. Xixi loved traveling around Europe with her friends. In 2013, she and her friends ran into J.C. Chan, Jackie Chan's son, on the street and happily took a picture with him. In June 2015, when she was 23 years old, Xixi was accepted to study for a master's degree in international business management at the same university. Both she and her family planned for her to return to China after graduation to help run the family business. In the romance department, in 2009, at the age of 17, Xixi met an Argentinian boyfriend 4 months after joining Facebook. They went through a complicated long-distance relationship that ended in a heartbreaking breakup. In 2011, Xixi met her second British boyfriend, Jacob Harris, at school. They stayed together until April 2014, when they ended things peacefully due to cultural differences. Despite the breakup, they remained friends, with Harris praising Xixi for her warmth and loyalty. In April 2015, just 2 months before completing her bachelor's degree, Xixi met Jordan Matthews, who was a year younger than her. Matthews, from Cardiff, came from a modest background, with 2 brothers and 3 sisters. His parents separated when he was a teenager, and he was bullied at school. Matthews attended schools in Llantwit Major and Barry, before leaving at 16, with 2 GCSEs in music and German. After leaving school, he started working as a pot washer, and later worked in various pubs and restaurants. Due to his past experiences of being bullied, Matthews developed a strong interest in martial arts. He watched all of Jackie Chan's kung fu movies, and even learned the snake fist from the movies. This interest led to a fascination with Chinese culture, and the hope of meeting a Chinese girl. Realizing the limitations of his current skills, he also took karate lessons. Xixi and Matthews met on the dating site Plenty of Fish. Matthews' attractive photos caught her eye and they hit it off. They quickly arranged to meet in person, and their first date was wonderful, sparking an instant connection. Their relationship progressed quickly. Matthews had a keen interest in Chinese culture and thought Xixi was perfect. Xixi was charmed by Matthews' British charm, tall and muscular build, blonde hair, blue eyes, and warm personality. After 2 weeks of dating, Matthews moved into Xixi's apartment. Soon after, Matthews lost his job. Although they were deeply in love, Xixi felt uncomfortable asking too many questions and quietly took care of their rent, utilities, and bills. She also bought Matthews clothes, food, and necessities, gave him gifts, took him on trips, and even gave him a car. Matthews, however, took all of this for granted. If he needed money, he would ask Xixi directly. Xixi didn't mind, and remained happy in their relationship. She changed her Facebook profile picture to one of her and Matthews, updated her status often, and they went to parties and traveled together, hugging and kissing. They even spent 2 months in France in the summer of 2015, enjoying a sweet time together. In September 2015, Xixi introduced Matthews to her brother, describing him as a university student in Cardiff with a successful father. It's unclear if Matthews misled Xixi about his background, or if Xixi introduced him that way, out of concern for her family's reaction to their relationship. As the new school year began, the couple moved back to Cardiff and settled into an apartment on Ely Road in Llandaff. Despite not having a job, Matthews began to show signs of an emotional problem. He would sometimes get angry with Xixi and began to try to control who she could talk to. Xixi had mentioned to her friend Ivy that Matthews had anger issues and could be a bit controlling. Ivy was concerned that Matthews was not working, did not appreciate Xixi's support, and treated her harshly. She advised Xixi to consider breaking up with him. However, Xixi thought it might be because her boyfriend cared about her. After learning that Ivy had advised Xixi to leave him, Matthews became angry and told Xixi to stop being friends with Ivy. Xixi had to limit her contact with Ivy. She also stopped talking to her ex-boyfriend Harris, with whom she used to keep in touch. When Xixi went back to China to visit her parents, Matthews felt extremely insecure and kept contacting her, urging her to come back. Once, when Xixi was staying with her friend Miss Chen, she woke up to 30 missed calls from Matthews, followed by an angry phone call. Matthews' behavior worsened as Xixi continued to be patient and compliant. He often used abusive language to demean Xixi. In May 2016, during a visit to Spain to see his father, Matthews had a conflict with him at the hotel, and his father asked him to leave immediately. Xixi arranged and paid for Matthews' early return ticket to the UK and offered to meet him at the airport, but Matthews responded rudely with "F off." In 2016, Xixi went from being a cheerful and outgoing person to becoming more isolated and introverted. She lost interest in her favorite designer clothes and stopped dressing up when she went out. During her studies, she began skipping classes, missing deadlines for assignments, and her grades took a nosedive. By the end of her first semester, she had failed all of her classes and had to repeat them all. Her advisor also noticed this change in Xixi and felt that she was a different person. Xixi used to be against drugs, but started smoking cannabis under the influence of Matthews. Xixi's friends noticed that she was losing weight quickly, but she explained that she was working out a lot and under a lot of academic pressure. Her brother, who was studying agriculture at the University of Nottingham, used to see her often, but in the months after Xixi started dating Matthews, her brother noticed that she wore heavy makeup to cover dark spots around her eyes. Xixi said she had fallen while wearing high heels. She also told her brother 3 times that she wanted to break up with Matthews because he was not a reliable guy. In July 2016, Xixi went to the hospital to have surgery for a broken jaw. She told the doctor that she had fallen down the stairs, but they actually lived on the ground floor. Xixi never told anyone about the violence she experienced at the hands of Matthews. She tried to hide her bruises with makeup, and when friends asked, she simply mentioned that there were cultural differences in their relationship. On August 18, 2016, Xixi went to visit her friend Miss Chen in London and didn't get back to Cardiff until midnight. Matthews picked her up at the train station, and they argued on the way home. Matthews accused Xixi of cheating on him for getting home late and started hitting her, while Xixi begged him to stop. They arrived home around 1 a.m. on the 19th, and a neighbor saw Matthews pulling Xixi out of the car by her hair. Throughout the night, the neighbors heard sounds of fighting, crying, and whining coming from Xixi's apartment. Although the noise disturbed them, the neighbors, who were aware of the couple's frequent arguments, decided not to call the police. At 8:30 a.m., Matthews called emergency services, explaining that he had argued with his girlfriend the night before, hit her, and found her struggling to breathe in the morning. He performed CPR and she showed some signs of response. Paramedics arrived at Ely Road in Llandaff and found Xixi lying still on the bedroom floor with extensive bruising all over her body. Matthews nervously admitted, "I hit her a bit, but I didn't punch her." However, the medical team noticed severe bruising, which indicated more than a few blows. They rushed Xixi to the University Hospital of Wales in Heath. Unfortunately, Xixi was pronounced dead at the hospital at 9:30 a.m., an hour later. The police later arrived and questioned Matthews about the incident. He claimed, "I had an argument with my girlfriend because she cheated on me. I pushed her on the sofa and punched her in the ribs. The fight lasted about 10 minutes. During the autopsy, the forensic expert found 41 injuries on Xixi's body, with more than 1/3 of her body covered in bruises, indicating a severe beating with multiple blows. The cause of death was complications from extensive soft tissue injuries and blunt force trauma to the head and body. The assault likely involved fists, knees, feet, and a stick-like object. Matthews was arrested on suspicion of attempted murder, and later on suspicion of murder. During questioning, Matthews' story kept changing. At first, he said they had argued only 4 times in their 16-month relationship, and that he had never hit Xixi. But later he admitted, "I hit her pretty hard." He claimed to be a black belt in karate, but then confessed that he was just bragging, and he was weak. That night, he said he hit Xixi because he caught her chatting with a guy named Ben on a dating app and suspected she was cheating. He mentioned that he was high on marijuana, which caused him to lose control of his emotions, even though he planned to marry Xixi. After hitting Xixi and seeing her hurt, he quickly apologized, kissed her injured arm, and they reconciled and spent an hour being intimate. Matthews said this was their usual way of making up after fights, and insisted that his attack on Xixi couldn't have been fatal.
Well, after the big me and Xixi had an argument, it wasn't even that big. I did throw her onto the sofa once, but that was because I wanted to ask her when she come into the living room to grab a packet of fags to have one. She said that she wanted one. I said, "This really isn't the time now to be sitting down and having a cigarette. I want to talk about this." Which is then when I pushed her onto the sofa. And then it wasn't very long at all before I asked her what she was doing. She would not, where she had been today and who she was with, and she just would not tell me. So I grabbed her by the front of her t-shirt with 2 hands. I picked her off the sofa, and then I dragged her with one hand around the sofa, and then I threw her into the bedroom. I picked her up from there. I threw her into the cabinet. I picked her up from there, and then, well, I punched her in the stomach. She said something really, I can't put my finger on it because I was picking her up. I didn't really catch it apart from the last bit. I just lost it the moment she said, because she said something like it before. I can't remember. It was something to do with her friend Ivy. I swear, because it's weird. But carrying on. And then after she said that, I instantly punched her pretty hard in the solar plex area around here. She instantly pretty much bent over, nearly dropped to the floor. I held her up with both my hands in front, under her arms, after I punched her, and then I could see that hurt. So I apologised to her. And then after that, then we just sat on the bed. She had a little bit of water because she said she was thirsty, and she spilt it everywhere, the first cup. But and she literally necked 4 in a row of half pints of water, one after another. She wasn't even breathing, I promise you. I had to tell her to slow down. That's why she tipped it everywhere the first time. She was so thirsty, she was shaking.
After investigating, police found no dating apps on Xixi's phone and no man named Ben. Instead, text messages between Matthews and Xixi revealed that Matthews regularly verbally abused her. In January 2017, Matthews pleaded guilty to manslaughter but denied murder. In February 2017, during the murder trial, Matthews claimed to have ADHD, but psychological testing confirmed that he did not. Neighbors testified that they heard intermittent crying and whining throughout the night of the incident. They didn't call the police because such sounds were common in Xixi's apartment, and they assumed this time was no different. One neighbor mentioned hearing Matthews say, "You filthy whore," and "One day I'm going to kill you," in the weeks leading up to the fatal attack. Another neighbor who lived above the couple reported hearing a man repeatedly ask, "Why do you keep doing this?" before Xixi's death. Prosecutors presented messages from Matthews to Xixi, including one in which he said, "Stop texting me, you worthless piece of shit. You never do anything right." Xixi's brother, friends, and ex-boyfriend also testified at the trial. Prosecutors described Matthews as jealous, manipulative, and possessive. On February 17th, the jury rejected Matthews' claim of manslaughter and unanimously found him guilty of murder. Jordan Matthews was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for 18 years. During sentencing, the judge emphasized that the attack was not an isolated incident, but the tragic result of months of abuse by Matthews toward Xixi. The judge also noted that Matthews' apologies were insincere, pointing out that Xixi had provided him with a home, clothes, and a car, but he repeatedly lied to avoid responsibility. Later, Xixi's brother, speaking on behalf of the family, said that Xixi was destined to take over the family business and had a bright future. However, Matthews cruelly and selfishly took her life, and since her death, her father has suffered severe depression and her mother is in constant mourning, tearing apart their once happy family. The case sparked a lot of discussion, as many people were puzzled as to why Xixi, who came from a wealthy and well-educated background, stayed with an unemployed man with a troubled past who verbally and physically abused her for more than half a year without leaving. Some online users found Xixi's Facebook account, where she often shared posts about losing weight. At 155 centimeters tall, she felt she wasn't pretty enough and considered herself slightly overweight. In the photos, she always smiled with her lips closed. Although her friends didn't think Matthews was a good match for her, she considered herself lucky to have him as a boyfriend. On April 12, 2011, Xixi wrote on Facebook, "Take me away from this world." When asked by a friend, she said it was just that her parents were putting too much pressure on her, and it was hard for her to cope. On October 4th, she wrote, "I am a little tragedy." Then, on November 14th, she wrote, "I am a loser." Xixi was sent to the UK to study at the age of 15 and felt the strain of being in a new place without her parents. This added a lot of stress to her life, and she craved love and attention, which may have led to a dependent personality. She rarely shared her emotional stories with her parents, and her past failed relationships made her fearful of being abandoned. She may have thought that Matthew's insults were a form of love, believing that she was the one at fault. She hoped that by obeying him and not being left alone, Matthews would change. She never told her friends about the violence, partly out of pride, and partly because she couldn't bring herself to end the relationship. A former employee of Xixi's father's company described Mr. B as a person of good character and strong abilities, but he focused heavily on his career, sacrificing time with his family and children. It's clear that even before Xixi went abroad at the age of 15, she lacked enough support and attention from her parents, who may have tried to make up for it with money and material things. This led Xixi to try to please Matthews by spending money on him, in the hopes of maintaining their relationship. Matthews admitted to verbally and physically abusing Xixi, and she always apologized to him without fighting back. Even when the abuse landed her in the hospital for surgery, she didn't report it to the police, which gradually emboldened Matthews to escalate the violence against Xixi. As Xixi endured the constant belittling, insults, and abuse, she became increasingly pessimistic. She may have been reluctant to recognize herself as a victim or to seek help from others, and was ultimately unable to save herself. Although Matthews was sentenced to life in prison, he was eligible for parole after 18 years, at the age of 41. That seems too short for a murderer who took the life of a girlfriend who genuinely cared for him with every punch. Xixi had a promising future ahead of her, but it was ruined by a toxic relationship. Many Chinese not only lack sympathy for Xixi's suffering, but also ridicule her for dating a foreign man, especially a Caucasian man. They accuse her of being too fascinated with Western culture, of showing colonial admiration. Some articles even focus on Xixi's attitude of admiring Western culture. The conclusion is that Xixi has lived a privileged life without facing any failures. The writer, speaking as an ordinary person, doesn't understand Xixi's social status, and believes that her death was entirely her own doing and deserved. This viewpoint has received thousands of approvals, which is really sad. What do you think about this case? Please share your thoughts and opinions in the comments section. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to my channel.